Welcome back to Wrestling with Horror, and today we're going to be looking at my top 10 favorite horror movies of all time. Let's go. Now, this list is not going to be conventional. It may even be a little bit controversial to some of you, but nonetheless, these are my feelings, and they could and probably will change at some point in the future. But I want to hear from you all. What are your favorite horror movies? What are your favorite subgenres? Put it down below in the comments and let's talk about it. Now, before we get started, I just want to say thank you to everybody who has already subscribed to this channel and watched my videos. Your support means the world to me. Let's get started. Number 10, Phantasm. Phantasm follows Mike, a young teenage boy who discovers that the mortician at their local cemetery is actually an interdimensional being with a plan to ravage the planet. Mike and his brother Jody, along with their friend Reggie, decide that it's up to them to stop the Tall Man, as they call him, and this leads them on a journey that they could have never imagined. What I like about this film is that you feel for these characters and what they're going through with the whole situation. And the Tall Man is completely shrouded in mystery. We know very little about him, and personally, I like a mysterious villain. One thing that we do get to see about the Tall Man in this film is just how freaking strong he is. At one point, Mike actually witnesses him with a full-size coffin up on one shoulder like it's nothing, just walking around. Also, the freaking spheres are amazing. We get to see them in action at one point in this film when the sphere actually drills into this guy's head. Like, what the crap? When it does this, blood just spews out of the sphere. It's insane. And lastly, Reggie freaking Bannister. Need I say more? Number 9, Hell House LLC. So this film actually takes place 5 years after the footage that we're seeing in it. It's a kind of different take on the found footage genre, which is admittedly not my favorite. There are some good ones in there, but overall it's just not my thing. But this film, however, it's different enough, and it's scary enough, and it's interesting enough to make this list. So 5 years ago, on opening night of a haunted house, 15 different tourgoers and the staff of Hell House all died due to an unexplained malfunction. What we see as we watch the footage of all this is that there was no malfunction. What we actually get is these evil beings and unexplained demonic forces that are causing all this. You know, there are some typical found footage things. It slowly builds up to that last 5-10 minutes of being utterly terrifying. However, in doing this, there are aspects of the found footage that make this film stand out, such as the darkness of the movie. It's all very dark, while at the same time being polished enough to not seem cheap, which is a problem I have with films such as The Blair Witch Project. This film also has 2 sequels that I believe complete a solid story, and they all fit together very nicely. We're only talking about the first one, unfortunately. I might talk about the other 2 in a later video, and we get a lot of answers in the second and third film. But with this one, it leaves a lot of questions unanswered. We don't know exactly what the demons are doing, why they're there, or anything really. We just know that this crew of this tiny haunted house tour are dead, and so are 15 other people, and it's all due to these spirits. Number 8, The Invisible Man. This classic film follows Dr. Jack Griffin, a scientist who finds a way of turning himself invisible. By doing this, the compound causes him to slowly lose his mind throughout the course of the film. His condition becomes so bad that he even forgets that he has a fiancée. His fiancée is played by Gloria Stewart, who was, old Rose from Titanic. When he completely loses his mind, he goes on a massive killing spree, taking over 100 lives in the process. Eventually, he is captured and shot, which causes him to start reverting back to his visible self. He lives just long enough for his fiancée to make it to his bedside. What's really cool about this film is how they accomplished the effect of making Griffin invisible. It involved black fabric and layering different pieces of film over one another. I find it amazing that they were able to accomplish such a feat at the time, where technology was so limited. Also, Claude Rains' voice acting in this film is phenomenal. I also have a soft spot for the Universal monster movies, and this one is by far my favorite because of how vicious Griffin becomes in his overall descent into madness. Number 7, Jaws. Okay, so with this one, I may be playing kind of loose with the rules on what constitutes a horror film, but to me, it is a horror. If for no other reason than the simple fact that this film alone is the reason that to this day I will not go in the ocean past knee deep. Not because I am scared of drowning or I can't swim, but because all I can think of is a shark coming up from underneath me and just dragging me under and devouring me. What makes this film so effective is that I'm not alone in those fears. This single movie terrified an entire generation of beachgoers. Now, I don't think that any film can be perfect, but dang, does this one come pretty close. From the acting to the writing, the direction by Steven Spielberg, it's all fantastic. Another interesting thing about this film is that, to me at least, this is kind of a family horror film, something that we can all sit down and enjoy. This film about a lone great white shark terrorizing a small island stands the test of time. Number 6, Tremors. So this is another movie that may not be considered horror by some people, but it's a monster movie. I don't care, it's horror. This film is about a small Nevada town that is attacked by a giant underground worm. And they have no idea where this worm came from. They don't even know that it's a worm at first. They think it's just like snakes or something. It's ridiculous, it's over the top, and it is fun. Kevin Bacon does a great job as one of the leads of this movie alongside Fred Ward. The use of practical effects in Tremors is great. It honestly looks so good for the budget that they had to work on this movie with. And something that you'll come to learn about me is I always prefer practical effects over CGI. Every time, 100% of the time. Now, aside from all that, a huge reason as to why this movie is ranked so high on my list is just the pure nostalgia I have for it. I watched it at a very young age, and it's stuck with me ever since. I have a blast with this film. Number 5, Psycho 2. I know. How could I ever have this film on my list and not the original Hitchcock film? Well, the truth is, I love the original Psycho. It's an amazing and shocking, fascinating film that stands all on its own, and it deserves every bit of recognition and respect that it gets. But the reason I have this film on my list is because of how different it is from the original while being a logical continuation of Norman Bates' story. In this one, Norman has just gotten out of a psychiatric hospital of some sort. He returns home and to the hotel. Now, as you can probably guess, people start dying, and we're left wondering, is Norman behind it? Or is he actually innocent this time? Has he changed? To me, this is one of the best and most underrated horror sequels of all time. The whole vibe of the film is different, and Anthony Perkins does a fantastic job conveying all of Norman's emotions of self-doubt and fear even, and I love it. Number 4, Scream. This film and franchise is still at the forefront of everybody's minds with last year's 5th chapter and the upcoming sequel to that film. In 1996, Wes Craven and Kevin Williamson completely revitalized the slasher subgenre with their meta, horror-referential movie. It follows Sidney Prescott as a killer known as Ghostface chases her, tries to hunt her down, goes after her friends, her family, everybody. And she has no idea why this killer has taken an interest in her. As far as Sydney goes, she's one of the best final girls in all of horror history. She's a fighter, she's smart, she's tough, and she always comes out on top. Beside her in every movie are Gale and Dewey. You know, she doesn't always have the best relationship with Gale in the films because of some shady things Gale has reported on in the past. However, they're always together and they always get through this stuff together. This central group of characters has appeared in every film up to this point, and they are a huge part of why this film and this franchise has been so successful. Number 3, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. One of the earliest slasher films in existence, this movie has become very popular over the years and has spawned several sequels, remakes, and reboots/requels. It follows a group of young individuals on a road trip who encounter a family of sadistic, cannibalistic people. One of these people is Leatherface, who would become the central focus of this film and the series as a whole. He wears people's faces, he cuts them up, hangs them on hooks, and not to mention his use of chainsaws. It's very gritty and one of the most disturbing films ever made, largely due to its utterly insane third act. And to me, in a weird way, Leatherface is almost sympathetic because it seems as if his family, his brothers, are just bullying him and being horrible to him the whole time and forcing him to do these things. Or maybe they've just brainwashed him into thinking the way that they think. Now, most people probably remember this movie being very gory, when actually there's very little blood in this movie. But because of how disturbing it is, it definitely seems like there's a lot more blood than there is. And because of this, it has stuck with me and it always will. Number 2, The Thing. The Thing is a cold movie. It follows a group of scientists in Antarctica as they encounter this creature, this alien life form. It first appears as a dog coming into their camp. Of course, they don't know anything's wrong with this dog, but as the film progresses, they find out that it replicates organisms, and that's pretty scary. Our protagonist in this movie is R.J. MacReady, played by Kurt Russell in one of his best roles of all time. His acting in this film is great, his star power is great. Something really cool about this movie is just how almost non-existent the score is, but when we do hear that score, man, is it amazing. The special effects in The Thing are so good. They're all practical. Even the dang title card is a practical effect they used to create that burning in of the title. It all looks freaking disgusting, but that's what we want. We want things to look so real, and they do. Throughout the story, there is an insane amount of tension between all of the characters because they don't know who is real or who is a thing. Neither do we. We get little hints as to who may be a thing, but we never really know. Even down to the last shot of the film, we're left with unanswered questions as to if our survivors are human or are they the thing. We don't ever get that answer, and it's up for interpretation, which is something that I actually prefer in a movie. I think it can really be a nice bookend to a story if done the correct way. And here, it is done in the perfect way. Kudos to you, John Carpenter, and I am sorry that this film did not get more recognition when it came out. Number 1, Halloween. Where to even start with this one? Halloween is an iconic movie. And so is Michael Myers. He's an iconic character. From the mask, to his knife, to the theme. They've all transcended time and become something that every single person knows about. It follows Laurie Strode and her babysitter friends as they are stalked by Michael Myers, who has just escaped from Smith's Grove Sanitarium, and his psychiatrist, Dr. Loomis, is in chase. What I love about this film is just the sheer terror that this could happen in small town America. Like, this could be right down the road. The figure lurking in the shadows is something that we've all feared at one point or another. John Carpenter and his team took basically no money and made this one of the most profitable movies of all time. In fact, I'm going to be making up a new term right now: the Carpenter effect. His direction is amazing, not to mention the freaking score. It's very minimalist, but it works so well. The Halloween theme is perhaps the most iconic thing from this entire movie. And again, this is a film with very little blood and gore. The mysterious stalking nature of Michael Myers is more than enough to make up for that. This film basically started my love for horror movies, and that's why it sits atop my list. In fact, I know for a fact that this is the movie that I have seen more than any other movie. It doesn't matter if it's horror, action, comedy, I don't care. I have seen Halloween more times than I have seen any other film in my life. And that is why it's number one. So that is the list. My top 10 favorite horror movies of all time. Please let me know down below what are your favorite horror movies of all time. You don't even have to pick 10. Just pick one and tell me why it's your favorite. And please remember, this is my list and these are my opinions. If you hate these movies, that is perfectly fine. But I want to hear your opinions. And if you agree with any of my thoughts on these movies, let me know that too. But that's going to do it for the video. Hit that thumbs up button. Don't forget to subscribe and turn notifications on. I'm Andrew Dreamer, and I will see you next time on Wrestling with Horror.